Christine Warzaga, I was told today, would not be here again. So with that said, we will get Jim Kosterman, possibly Ron is also here, and we can, I would really like to do a presentation of the St. Mary's Catholic Church.
Oh, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Very happy that we're here tonight in front of the Town Council. We have some great plans for our property here in Acton, and we've been working very hard with the county. And we'll have a presentation by our engineer and by our architect so that you can see it clearly and hopefully accept it, because we really plan on trying to build it in the next 10 years. Maybe tomorrow. Thank you very much.
My name is Jackie Squires. I'm the architect with Cunningham Group. We've been working with Father Vaughn in the parish for quite a few years now, and we're excited, to be here and to keep this moving on. As you said, this is a long-term plan. The diocese has purchased some land, and we're looking at what works best for the parish. So we've developed some plans for the church, which includes a 710-seat parish, along with a small multi-purpose room, a small commercial kitchen, some offices, restrooms, and the storage spaces that go with that. We've created sort of a U-shape, so it also creates a nice outdoor area for the parish to use when the weather permits. And by enclosing it with the buildings, allowing a nice use of space, even if there's some wind or sun, we can play with some shading elements for that. Again, this is a work in progress, and in working with the church, we've also been looking around at buildings like this that are newly built and looking at the Acton town design standards, to make sure that we're creating a building that both works for the church and has an identity, but also fits in, with the community around. The church, as I said, purchased the land, and in order to fund the new parish, they'll be selling off some of the parcels. So we have the engineer here who will talk a little bit about that process in terms of subdividing that land. So I guess if we want to go through this, there's we're asking for a conditional use permit, which will allow the church to, in the future, build this piece of this building on the property. It will include, sufficient parking, and then allow for future expansion if required. Yeah, I have that. So he'll put the bit larger images up there. But you can see this is the large parish, flexible seating, has the chapel here in the front, along with some side rooms, large restrooms for the parish, the sacristy for the priest, some storage for their tables, and the multi-purpose room, and then a couple offices for their admin. So it's a relatively, I think, simple design in some ways, but very feasible for the parish. I think it will work very well, and again, having that outdoor space, I think, will be a really nice feature. The style of the building, again, trying to look at what's around while also giving that identity. And we've worked with the diocese as well, so they've seen these plans and have given us their blessing in terms of the design. So you can see a lot of the similar materials and color schemes that you see around the buildings in Acton, the gable roofs, the bell tower with a cross on it, sort of a grand front entry with some glazing so you can enjoy the daylight as well as give that a really prominent entry. So he's going to put the plans up here so everyone can see. So hopefully some of you can see most of that. Again, you can see on the roof line in the upper corner the skylights. So again, bringing natural daylight into the church space has become very important to give it a very uplifting feel. Want to talk about the subdivision a little bit?
Well, an engineer, once you get started, we can't stop.
Would you like us to ask questions individually of the architectural and engineering?
Well, while she's here, why don't you do that?
Okay, so for the architectural, I know in our standards we've got more or less a Western motif in design, and I'm not familiar with Western churches that much, so I'm
This
just
is more
wondering.
mission style.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It looks more mission style, and I was going to ask the other council members how they feel about that. And a lot of the mission churches, didn't they have dual bell towers? Or wasn't that kind of a
Oh, but we're
standard?
not mission, we're not, you know.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm just saying, I don't see it looking that Western, and I'm not sure how to get the effect that we're looking for.
Right, so some of what we try to do is materiality, so using some of the stone, the stucco. It won't have a clay tile roof, so it would be your shingle roof. There is a colonnade right here in the exterior area. You've got sort of a colonnade outside, similar to the library, if it has one. The church needs a bell tower, so we did add one. I think it's about 30 feet tall. So what we really try to do mainly is materiality and the look and feel in terms of color schemes and things like that. It is slightly mission-esque, but at the same time, Western. There's not a lot of precedent for a Western style church, so we were trying to grab what we could in terms of what we'd seen around.
That's my whole thing there too, but on another hand is that it's very simplistic in its design, and with using materials such as stucco and caulk shingle roofs, that seems like it was designed more on budgetary restraint than on meeting our standards.
Well, we do have a budgetary restraint. You know, we try to work with the parish to propose something that they will be able to build, but there is some stone. So we focus the majority of the stonework. The stone veneer will be on the church portion of it, to really highlight that as the importance, the most important space in the building, and try to vary it with use of glass and stone and stucco.
I understand that, glazing is important, and I know that the Catholic Church has missed its church that it was sold 10 more years ago, and has wanted to build this for a long time, so I'm happy about that, and I understand how important glazing is to bring in natural light, because it's very important. But it looks like it belongs in Santa Barbara, it just doesn't look Western, and we're about to launch on the battle of our community, and one of the issues is this issue of Western, and so that's an issue I'm concerned with. I'm not concerned with the rest of the project necessarily, although I would like to know how much impervious surface are you going to be doing in here? Impervious surface. Like, for example,
I'll
your
address
parking
that
lot.
now.
Okay, all right.
Presentation.
We have a lot of homes downstream from you, and we want
Right.
to make sure the runoff isn't a problem.
Yes, ma'am.
We have looked at that.
So I'm concerned about the appearance. I'm just going to say it, so.
Does anyone else have any gut feelings on this?
Well, the only problem is, we really need to look at it very well. To make a decision tonight, I think it's too soon, until we can really get a good look at this.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I'd kind of like to see, I mean, this is obviously computer generated, very small. I'd kind of like to see a little more texture to the drawings, so we can tell what the products are going to use. It looks some of it, in basic looking, it just doesn't look like it fits in the community as far as the building design. Should we go into engineering, unless anyone else has architectural questions? Anyone in the community would like to comment?
I was wondering if they took a look at the old 1890s church to kind of get an idea about building theirs.
Crown Valley?
Presbyterian.
Presbyterian Church?
Oh, yeah.
Same question, have you toured the area and seen the old church that's right off town hall?
Yeah, I've seen it, I haven't toured inside of it, but driven by.
Go ahead.
Well, I saw some of the pictures before about the church. I haven't seen it lately, but I remember when I saw it, it didn't seem to be that much different from the fire station, the forest station, or this library. There's like a modern missionary style to all three of these buildings, kind of like a mix between Western and Mission. And I think that this church proposal follows in that in that groove.
Yeah, I mean, they've got large wood posts and kind of
Yeah.
metal buckles and stuff, which give us a little more of a country feeling. I don't see much wood on this at all, other than the trim.
Yeah.
The difference also is the Forest Service doesn't have to comply, and neither did the library have to comply. So
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
I'm just, it's, this community right now is struggling to get what it is we were promised. And so that's, I'm not hard over and concerned about this, but it is an issue,
So I think one thing a little bit going on with that, we did drive around, we've looked at buildings, we worked on some other projects with Father Ron in the parish. And I think one thing, to me this does look similar, it has some similar elements to the library and the fire station or forest station, thank you. And those are the buildings that are sort of closest, so in terms of geography, community, and the look and feel of this sort of immediate area, I think there are a lot of similarities.
Well, to be fair, I do want to tell you that that is exactly what Taco Bell said when they pointed to Jack in the Box and McDonald's. So that, I understand what you're saying, but it's that argument and carried next door, literally, is a problem. So I see what you're saying.
Yes.
As a community member, I would welcome a change like that. I think mission style would fit in very nicely here. Especially with carrying in some of the common things surrounding buildings. And I think that Western might tie in that during the times of the missions, that there was many Western towns around the missions that people traveled back and forth to. And although it might look Santa Barbara or whatever, I think it would be a welcome change, especially for a church. My opinion. Thank you.
When I think of Mission, I think of more like the Mission down there in the valley, and more arches and more areas with nice overhangs and that kind of thing. Not so much the angle, the modern squareness of this building, but so I'm not really seeing this as a Mission style, but it does fit in the surrounding environment. And it is consistent with the other church on just down the road too.
Yeah, I wasn't here when it was here, but I was on the council, so I don't know. I don't think they actually came.
Sandy?
Hi, if you could all speak up, it would help, because you're kind of having a conversation up there, and I'm having a hard time hearing. But anyway, I would like to say that I think our other churches in the community out western, I don't know that the western, to stick to a western theme totally for a church is as appropriate as it is for some other buildings. And I don't think we're fighting for the western flavor, I think we're fighting for the rural flavor. So as relating to the Taco Bell situation, I could be wrong on that too, but I can't see that, so I can't really respond. But I think we have to think of churches in a slightly different way than we do with the drive-through restaurants. So, whether it's as western as some people might like, maybe a moot point as far as the church is concerned. I think it's right along the strip, so I think that if it blends in, it would be an asset to this area.
And I think one thing with the church is it's a taller building and yet still one story. And so that difference in terms of a few of the other buildings, again, the library has this higher roof as well, but it does sort of emulate that look. So a Western style with a really large front like you want on a church gets a little trickier to do. And I think that maybe is where some of what you're thinking of is Mission. And we have done quite a few Mission style churches for other parishes in other areas around LA. you know, and they are the stucco. They tend to be a little more clustered. The clay tile roof kind of, you know, that feel to it. So I think this does have some differences. I did misspeak. I think we have a metal roof on this. If that helps, but
That's a metal roof?
yeah.
Are they going to require you to get a variance for the height?
We need the height variance.
Okay, so they said the cross doesn't go on.
The cross doesn't. So they
Okay.
right, yeah.
That's
So the
good.
cross
No,
goes
that's good.
over.
That's
But
good.
we originally had it at, I think the roof was at 35.4, and they asked
Okay.
us to make it under. So we do need height variance.
But they're not going to give you a bad tap on the cross?
No.
So, all right, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, a metal roof, I think is better than a caulk shingle.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, and I
Yes.
misspoke on that. I apologize.
Yeah.
So, and
I'll take that.
the other thing is just some of the lines, it is just got such sharp corners. And, you know, the Western style, we've just got a little more arches and kind of flowing with things. I don't know. You know, you see the windows are rectangles, the roof's got sharp corners and stuff. And again, and Sandy, I agree, because the first thing I'm thinking about is how do you make a church Western style? Even a lot of the old towns in the Western, the churches were still mission style.
Mission.
You know, so it's a mission style church in a Western town.
And it's a large church too, so it's going to be bigger than the Presbyterian church.
Mhm.
But even the church on going downstairs doesn't, you know what I'm saying?
Right, it's
Oh,
very
I know,
small.
I know. I don't know how that, I don't know the history of it, so.
I don't know the history, but it's very straight, similar. So,
Well, I would think that when we talk about construction and who's building what, personally, I'm willing to, you know, give the Catholic Church or any other church more leeway than I would a commercial business. You know, because they actually, there's no argument that it's going to serve the community and it's going to be a benefit to the community.
Absolutely.
So I'd be willing to say, you know, to give them a little bit more leeway than I would somebody else solely for commercial enterprise.
good point.
Yeah. I mean, with that said, I think the metal roof makes a big difference. And, you know, for me, I've always, I grew up with very, very old Catholic churches back on the East Coast. And part of the architecture was that they were warm and inviting. And they, you know, it made you drive by and say, you know, that's a place you should stop in. But this just seems a little colder in its architecture, so I don't know what you can do for that, but that's pretty much, you know, how that feeling. As Thor said, I think they're really leeway because this is a community serving development.
I think the height restriction is very difficult to deal with. Because part of the warm and inviting is usually the small,
You know,
which you can't, the height restriction is limited on.
Can you guys speak up, please?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Jackie.
Over here.
Oh, go ahead.
I have a comment. You're concerned about the outside looking like Western. We have been meeting at the High Desert Gym now for well over 20 years, and that definitely does not have a Western feel. So I would hope that you take that into consideration, because we desperately need our church. Thank you.
Before we move off of architectural to engineering, anyone else in the community like to say anything?
I just had one comment for the church. Are you aware of one of the proposed high-speed rail routes is between here and just above us here? And I didn't know if you'd taken that into consideration or were aware of that.
I actually was not aware that it was that close.
It's only, it's underground there, but it's 10 feet, basically, well, close to it.
Very close.
It's very shallow.
I think when this building comes to fruition and the high-speed rail comes to fruition, there are things we can do to buffer sound and work with that to make sure that it's.
Yeah, I didn't need an answer. I just wanted to make sure we were aware of that. So.
Hopefully you get to church before the high-speed
Right.
rail.
Yeah,
And
right.
all meet at the church and thank somebody for saving Acton.
Go ahead in the back. I'm going to ask with the Taco Bell going in and the church, that's a lot more traffic. Is that going to prompt the county now to want to put a traffic signal on Sierra Highway and Crown?
You know, I think we're gonna talk about traffic with Taco Bell, but I will say this, and maybe the folks from the Catholic Church can correct me, but I presume most of your traffic will be on Saturdays and Sundays, right? I mean, so there should be a lot of conflict with the High Desert Middle School down Antelope Woods during, you know, you don't have a school here, right? Is there, so, but we will talk about traffic, because that's a big problem.
Okay.
That's okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Christopher, one question.
Oh, one more? Go ahead.
There's a real good concept that you want to entertain here at the board, you know, to go ahead and look at this as a multi-purpose building as well as a religious church. When the original design came up right there, the cardinal questioned whether we would have enough actual parishioners for a parish. So the original design concept has now, what you're seeing up on the board right there, to whereas we could utilize this as a multi-purpose building.
Just so you know, basically what happens is that the church owns the 30 acres, just slightly under 30 acres, which is just to the north of this site right here. And what ends up happening is, because it's 30 acres, in the zone that we're in, it's an A1 10,000, which means 10,000 square foot lots. Now, don't jump up and down, but what ends up happening is that the county looks at the general plan as far as the designation plus the Acton rural standards. Now, the general plan calls this area an N1, a non-urban one, and what happens is that makes it a little bit different, because what happens is the lots need to be 2 acres with a 1 acre, or excuse me, 40,000 square foot net. So basically, we've gone through about 4 or 5 different iterations with the Los Angeles County Planning Department. The site layout that you have right now has been blessed by the county planning. We've already gone through a couple of plan checks with the various public works agencies and had input from them. We're at the stage now where we're getting your final blessing in order to take this to a tentative map stage. Currently, the 30 acres is being subdivided into 10 lots. Now, the 10 lots is going to fall into this kind of a category. We have 7 lots that are coming off of a cul-de-sac, and that cul-de-sac is set right off of Sourdough Road. That cul-de-sac comes in and drops down through here. Now, that cul-de-sac will specifically serve the 7 houses, and they are single-family dwellings, and they range from the gross areas for that range from 2.61 down to 1.12 acres. And again, I'll get into why we have something smaller than what the N1 allows for us in just a second. Then secondly, what we have are 2 lots that are to be owned by the Archdiocese. You have a church accessory lot over here, which is approximately 2.5 acres, and then the church facility, which will be directly to the north of the library facility here, and that is basically a 4.1 acre site. Now, the remaining last lot is what we call an open space lot, and that will take that large channel area together with all the land that lies over to the east of that, and that becomes just an open space lot, and nothing can happen with it without county and local communities' blessing. So at this point, what ended up happening was we had lot configurations that went further out and across the open space, across the water area. Now, we do not get any allowance for the spacing because of the watershed area that comes down, but there is some flat area over there that we were utilizing in order to get the areas up higher. Now, what ended up happening in part of the back and forth with the county planning department was there was an opportunity to minimize the lot areas, it's called clustering. It's part of the Antelope Valley criteria, and so we fall into that category. So what we ended up doing was making some smaller lots over through here in order to offset and provide a larger open space over through here. Now, part of the clustering aspect of the subdivision is a minimum 40,000 square foot net area. And in all cases, all the lots for that subdivision for the single family residence are all in excess of that. Our smallest one is 1.1. 40,000 square feet is roughly 9/10 of an acre. So the smallest lot is still 1/10 of an acre larger than the minimum allows. Also, a criteria for clustering is that the overall lot count exceeds 2 acres. And with our 30 acres with 10 lots, that's basically just under 3 acres per lot on average. So we're well within that. Now, one other thing to keep in mind is that given the consideration, we could have always increased the density over through here, but in sitting down with regional planning, they didn't want to support a larger area. We did have more density at one point. We cut that back in order to gain support from the regional planning staff. So at this point, staff is very happy with this configuration. Again, it's 7 single-family houses, and what will happen is the Archdiocese St. Mary's Church, once they start the process, they will subdivide these and create the legal lots and sell those off to either a builder or to individual homeowners, and then they will have the criteria to meet the codes for each of the individual residential buildings. So that could be sold off to a land developer for 7 lots, or it could be sold to 7 individual property owners. And another thing to keep in mind is that in the clustering aspect, I know folks can't see it at home, but what we have is we have the 165 by 165, which again is an Acton standard. Again, there's a criteria where we can allow for they call it an irregular lot size, as long as you provide for the area of the 165 by 165. And we've shown that on each one of the lots that we meet that criteria. 3 of the lots are slightly adjusted, and 4 of them are almost perfect as far as meeting the 165 by 165 buildable area criteria. So with that aspect, now the remainder of the subdivision is for a single lot here, which will serve the proposed church facility that you folks were talking with Ms. Ayers about, the squires, sorry, wrong Jackie. And then a second lot, which the church hasn't quite figured out what they're going to do with, but we've shown a facility and a parking lot that comes across here. Now, one thing that we do want to know is that the access for the church facility will come off a driveway, which will just be to the north of this driveway here that services the library. We did not want the residential traffic to be mixed up with the church's traffic, so that was another issue that planning was very happy with, that the residential traffic will have their own cul-de-sac that will service them and their facilities, and the Archdiocese and their church will service their own facility through a driveway down here at the south. At that point, I'll address any questions relative to the subdivision aspect of anything. Yes, ma'am.
What would your setbacks be on the 7 lots?
Well, the setbacks have criteria, ma'am. They'll be set by the county's setback criteria. I believe it's 20-foot side yards and 50-foot, so whatever that criteria is, we'll be bound by that in all cases. Yes, sir.
That would be the community standard setback requirements, which is not exactly as you indicated. A couple problems I have with it here. As soon as I finish my thinking here. Anyway, this is already submitted under the old AV area plan.
It's been updated to the most recent, yes.
So what you're saying is this needs to meet the current AV area plan, or it still is under the requirements of the previous AV plan?
Okay.
Which one?
Well, we met the previous criteria, and now it's been updated for the most current one.
Just a couple of comments. From as early as 1991, the community has vehemently opposed the concept of clustering. And we have also pushed for as strongly as we can minimum 2-acre lots. Those I find in conflict with the plan here. Regional planning has not been, shall we say, supportive recently, and the community is, a large part of the community is feeling like they're just being run over roughshod. And anything that the church could do, in my opinion, to comply with the community's wishes, which are clearly outlined in the new updated AV area plan, would be beneficial. Say if you meet the setback requirements of this current Acton CSD, and some of these lots along the side, you extend the legal lot size all the way through your open area here and make them individual lots of much larger than your 2.5, than your 1 acre, that might satisfy the specifics of the requirement and still get you what you want. But leaving all of this open here, the community has been burnt numerous times in the past by doing that. Just a comment.
And you don't need to send it all the way to the east, you just need to send it over to get your two acres gross, which are almost there on most
They're
of
almost.
Well, they're almost there.
Then if you left it, you can still put a conservation easement or open space easement
Oh,
on
absolutely.
those. So we just, for the last 9 or 10 years in the new AV plan development, which was just adopted a few months ago, you know, this community has said very clearly no clustering. I thought that the clustering had been removed as a permitted action.
We fought it vehemently back in the 90s, and there's not been a project approved since then on clustering. The last one was one proposed, I can't remember where, but it wasn't even built. And I know with the one up Carson Mesa, they weren't able to cluster up there either, as I was, if I recall correctly.
No, they all had, I think they predominantly met the two. I don't remember the details, but it seems like you could still get everything that you've got here if we could just make the lots legally be 2 acres. Is there any reason why you couldn't do that?
Well, I'm in the boat with you folks, because at one point we met that criteria. That was one of the iterations in the county planners, and they landed up the flagpole to their superiors, said absolutely not, because there is a demarcation right along where that edge of it, and they basically shoved that down our throats. And they said, we'll allow you to do the smaller lots as long as you meet the criteria. And sir, I don't disagree with you, but
I'm not arguing with you at all. It's just I'm amazed with the county.
But they still have it in their, it's the one right off the website.
I understand.
I mean, and from this standpoint, I'm bound by my client, the Archdiocese, to provide what code allows me. I don't disagree with you folks. That's a fantastic.
You weren't in opposition to that suggestion.
No, ma'am. At one point, we had that as a layout.
Right,
And exactly what you said, because we will have to provide a watershed easement across that area. So what difference does it make if, you know, homeowner B, C, and D have a part of that? We're still going to have the aspect.
Right.
Exactly.
So from my perspective as the engineer, it says one half dozen the other. But as I hear you folks here, you guys in the county aren't on the same page, and so no, we're not.
That's the understatement of the year.
From my standpoint, I have to produce something to regional planning that they will approve.
Was this set aside, this, what, 10.02 acres, was that linked at all to juniper preservation? What was the, did they not tell you you needed to preserve?
Is this thinking it's going to be a river every 100 years? It's going to be a runoff area?
Well,
so junipers never came into the discussion? It wasn't because of junipers?
At this point, the county is not, we've kept as many junipers out there as we can.
Is it a water issue, water breeding?
No, we had, a couple of months ago, somebody here with 40 acres just wanted to split it into 2. And the county said, you can't because we want to save the junipers, and they made him cede over 10 acres of his land. Literally, so I didn't know that was what's going on here, for the junipers.
Yeah. I mean, that could belong to them.
No, I'm just trying to understand what, you know, what they told you, what the requirements were, because it seems to change, like, they changed their mind like they changed their underwear.
That's in the very beginning, they basically said that shaded in area is just unusable.
Unbuildable.
But in the past, when you have a wash like that, maybe not as extensive as this one, they've never separated that out, and so you can't count that, you can't use that. They always included it. So
This is new to us.
it is new to us.
Well,
It's from one day to the next, depending on who you're talking to, they change everything.
Typically, what ends up happening, sir, when you have the area that has the watershed to it, what happens is you get no density credit for that. So
I'm
we
just
follow
saying they
that.
have given it before, and they are inconsistent. But we're not on opposite pages here, really.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering if the Crown Valley Estates lots that go down to the wash in the back on the east side, I think those go further than those parcels, and probably some of their land incorporates that wash. So I mean, if you attack it that way, maybe the county would say that you can gain part of that, trying to make 2 acres out of that, like going further east.
The 2 acres that we're talking about, just so we're clear, there's a difference between net and gross. And the gross area is just everything. The net is what's removed from like the watershed, the roadway and such. So the net area, we're in excess of all the net criteria. It's just that the clustering aspect had to happen because the gross areas weren't here. And like the gentleman here was pointing out, you're mentioning, I mean, at one point, every one of these was 2 acres because that line came over here and we put this number, and then everybody's in excess. But the county didn't like that. So I could either sit there and argue with the gentleman at the county planning staff, and when his boss argues with me, and then his boss argues with me, I'm tied, and then, they break out the
What was
code.
their specific reasoning for not liking it?
Well, the whole aspect is with this configuration, we fall under what they call the code, the Acton Community Standards District, with that aspect of the 40,000 plus the average area size.
So it doesn't meet the general plan of 2 acres. So what was their specific problem with that line in the 2 acres of his land? They're not buying it.
Next time I meet with them, Chris, I'm going to bring you with me because we said the same thing to them.
The thing is, developers here have been successful, very successful, working with us, and we've been successful working with developers on developing projects that are consistent with the standards, consistent with neighbors' wishes from the community. So I'm just going out on a limb, but I'm sure the council is willing to work with you in addressing certain issues to the county. You haven't mentioned whether they asked you to dedicate a trail in the front of Crown Valley Road.
I'll get there.
Okay,
They did,
and our street lights,
Yeah.
different things like that, because those are big issues as well. That
Well,
we can help you on if there's a problem.
I mean, from the standpoint, what we have meets what the code that we've been presented with by Los Angeles County. I'm here to give that presentation. You folks, I mean, at this point, while I don't want to be argumentative, it does fall into what they are pointing out to us, meets their code, their criteria, and they're willing to say, fine, let's move forward. And again, I mean, from the standpoint of the clustering, it's not, I mean, these are still, acre pads of pure flat area. So it's not like they're that small, and we're...
For Acton is clustering for Palmdale, it wouldn't be.
Well, I understand. I mean, this is a larger community area. So that's where we stand. Again, for the 165 by 165, which is another important criteria, these lots are perfect. This one and these two, to some smaller degree, are gerrymandered in order to meet the area, but not quite the 165 by 165. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Can you possibly upsize the lots and decrease the amount of lots, like go to 5 lots instead of 7, without having to go into that drainage area to get your 2 acres? Why not, go the other direction and eliminate a few lots and maybe go to 5 lots instead of 7? You're going to get your same amount per acre in purchase price.
Yes.
So it's really not a factor for you. For money-wise, I would think you would still get your same money exchange.
From up where Silver Spur is up and through here, there's a drainage device that runs the water down and outlets just to the south of your house, ma'am. And then that trickles down through this open field through here, and then it comes along through here, comes down through here, and then the library facility has got their whole open space down through here that opens up, and it takes that drainage course from here. We basically have stayed out of that except for 2 locations. We have a crossing with the roadway that comes through here, and then there's a crossing with the secondary parking lot down through here. Both of those are being sized and designed for their proper flow. And again, we come back to the same amount of waters coming through there. That's going to happen at this point today as in the future. Now, some of the drainage concerns that you have, basically what we have is we have the ability, there is impervious within the individual lots. Here's the impervious of the roadway, and then the impervious aspect of the church and its parking lot. But in the church and its parking lot, what we're doing was we're advocating the same type of a drainage system as you see out in front here, where you have the gravel area that accepts the water from the runoff of the parking lot. It acts as an LID, or a best management practice, for the tainted water, so to speak. And then what ends up happening is that gets infiltrated in these areas here. Individually, the houses that are going to be anticipated will also have to address on an individual basis or a collective basis, again, depending upon whether they are built by a single entity or by individual entities. That's a county requirement that they also address the impervious aspect. And typically on a smaller lot, a single family like these, what ends up happening is they have rain barrels, they have gutters, they have things that drain off into an infiltration, a lower septic area, excuse me, it could be a septic area, but a lower pond area, and that water is retained so that eventually the same water from this development here will be at this point, before it gets into their channel, today and in the future and forever. That's my requirements as an engineer, that I have to make that same water that's there today be the same water in the future. So that's how it's designed. That's what our infiltration is. That's the best way to address that, and that's how we're going to go with that.
So you're saying this whole southern area here is just a giant detention basin?
No, ma'am, there's no detention basin. Those are gravel areas where the parking lots are, the same as you have out through here.
No, but what I'm trying, do you have pits underneath? Somehow you have to have a place for all the water to gather before it can infiltrate, because it takes a while, you know, for the water to go through the soil.
That's
and you've got a lot of surface area that's solid, so all that has to be captured.
That's correct.
And I'm just trying to figure out, normally just a layer of gravel is not sufficient to capture that much water.
Well, again, what we're having is we're having individual areas. This parking lot, the drainage will be diverted to the middle areas and to the southerly area. So the water will be conveyed into those, so it's not like it's running off. The water, the only place where we have a large concentrated water is along the roadway through here, and we have a gravel area, and we also have a holding tank that will be out down through here for its LID component.
How much rainwater did they tell you to catch? 3/4 of an inch?
Well, there is a criteria that establishes what we have to treat and what we have to address as far as the LID component. Now, the aspect of what we have to treat because of the LID is the 3/4 of an inch or the 85th percentile, whichever is greater. At that point, we also have to address the 50-year storm or the 25-year storm as it affects the street and its runoff.
Only
So
the street though, not the parking lot or the roof.
Well, all the impervious areas down through here will have that drainage criteria. I mean, it's a typical LA County standard that I can't get away from.
Right, well, because we asked the county about that, they also did the 3/4 inch on Taco Bell, and we got 2 inches of rain in a matter of hours, several times over the last few months. And we were concerned about only catching the first 3/4.
Well,
so,
but what the issue that you're bringing up, the 3/4 of an inch, is what we call the LID component.
Right.
That's when the oils and the greases, it hasn't rained for quite a while. That first flush, they call it, the rain hits the ground, those oils and greases come up, and that is the part that has to be treated and addressed because it's tainted water. After it's rained for a while and you get more additional runoff, then what happens is that just has to be addressed as far as the overall hydrology and the hydraulics go. and it doesn't have to be treated because the first flush or the first 3/4 was treated and maintained. The rest of it is a runoff consideration.
Right, and that's the other part that I'm trying to understand, because it sounds like you just have gravel, and that's going to accommodate the runoff component. I'm just not, the math doesn't add up for me.
Well, the gravel is just for the parking lot of the Archdiocese parking lot, because again, it's flat.
Okay, so the roof has another.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, that's
And
much
then
better. All right.
we also have another component for the roadway. And then individually, these houses, when they come in, they will also have to address that same criteria.
Right, I understand, I just didn't, that is not enough for the whole church development. So that's
I
why
understand.
Where is the one for the roof, where is that?
Well, that will be back here by where the church facility
Okay,
is.
all right. Okay.
This lady, yes ma'am?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, what type of surface is the parking lot going to be covered with? Is it gravel, DG, asphalt, what are you going to be using?
Well, it'll basically be the same type of consideration that you have out here, where it's an AC for the driving surfaces, and then the aggregate for the gravel or
So that will
aggregate.
absorb a lot of water in itself
Yes,
instead of
ma'am.
having it run off of a hard surface.
I agree. Yes, ma'am. All right.
Superfluous hard surface. That's the new term. Superfluous hard surface.
I think you mean,
PG.
Perfect. At that point, that's pretty much, we've talked about drainage, we've talked about subdivision, we've talked about roadways.
How wide is the equestrian trail, the base?
16
Trail
feet.
is okay.
It's exactly the same that you have out here. This will just be extended all the way out, and it's already dedicated at a 16-foot.
That complies with the standards we approved.
Um,
I said every way.
Yeah, the county current, all I can cite now is the county current standard, and that is a 12-foot base. So that where the horse actually can go. So we have the fence and all the other little bits. So that's why I just want to make sure, because Taco Bell, we got 5 in some places.
We're showing a 16-foot Vasquez Loop Trail horse easement. So, and it's shown from edge to edge, and then we have the 2-rail split fence on the one side.
It sounds like you'll need the 12-foot, so.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so that sounds good.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, or concerns? Well, with that, I thank you very much for your time and your consideration of the project.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
When is your hearing?
We've already
Planning commission hearing?
No.
Okay.
We-
What are you doing here? Sorry.
We almost fell off our chairs. Okay?
Yes.
Like, really?
No, the planning commission.
Hearing from the audience and in my own mind, I really can't see how we get a church to look western. So we're willing to have a little leeway in that, but is there anything that we'd like to have changed? For me, it still looks a little too flat walled and plain with the square edges and stuff, so I think, maybe there's something they can do. We're not asking to reinvent the wheel, but maybe something architectural, maybe just on the side of the buildings that are basically visible from the street.
Other than the square windows, like you're saying, maybe a little bit.
Maybe some arched windows or something.
Windows or something like
So
that.
are you fixed on your glazing? Can you do more glazing, or is that not allowed? Title 24 prevents it, or?
No, we could do more glazing.
Or, something to break up the.
Yes.
Yes.
It is also, so when you look at it, the building is angled off the road, which may help a little bit. I still hear your concern, but it's not a flat surface right along the road. So you sort of see perspective at all times.
Well, these elevations here are CAD generated, but they're not artist conceptions. You don't have any artist conceptions where they're a little more detailed than other than
Just the 3D.
just the CAD generated ones.
Oh, yeah, we didn't do like an artist rendering.
Yeah,
Yeah,
artist
we don't
rendering.
have any of those right now.
I mean, other than that, I think that's the only concerns that we have. I mean, we could,
The right turn lane. I think
Yes.
is
the right turn lane again. So that's 3 items.
But then if you look at, we should be careful about the traffic issues, because if you look at the right turn lane, you also have to look at the impact of Taco Bell and people exiting onto Crown Valley Road from Taco Bell, and what impact that's going to have on the traffic there as well. It's been suggested that we might as much as go all the way up Crown Valley Road for the center median or something like that to prevent traffic crossover and people trying to cross traffic and get killed and all that. So there's a lot of issues that may come up.
Because there is a
with
120
Taco Bell.
lot subdivision that's been approved.
Right.
The track map's been final. They're just waiting for the
There's
economy
several
to
up
shut
there.
down.
Ron, was there any kind of traffic study done for just this
That's what I was
specific?
gonna mention, there hasn't been a traffic study done yet, but there's gonna be one scheduled, county commands.
Have they asked you to do what is called a traffic light warrant analysis?
I don't know that, ma'am. That'll be part of the traffic people's work.
Okay, I would very much like to know if that is, look, they're gonna sit down with you and you're gonna have a contract with what you're going to analyze. And I would like to know that because that's an issue for us
Well,
right now.
that's typically part of what the traffic engineers study, basically warrants whether the traffic flows right turn lanes, through lanes, signalization at nearby intersections.
It's a requirement from their guidelines, but they did not make Taco Bell do that. So I'm just curious as to what they've asked you to do.
What would be your concerns?
Just the traffic flow. There's not, you know, there's not a concern. This is a very community serving. I don't hear anybody concerned about the traffic generated by it, but just understanding it vis-a-vis other developments in the area that we're aware of. Besides Taco Bell, I mean, we got the Rite Aid too, so it's big. And
The traffic's gonna happen no matter what, we just wanna make sure that it's managed properly and we don't have some safety issues or.
And the county treats you personally as they treat everybody else.
My good friend, the architect on this building right there, they lost that concept of the relaxation of the 40-foot wide Crown Valley concept that was relaxed back in 1986. And it then maintained a 2-lane all the way up to the top of the
Right,
there.
no, we fought that because it's now a limited secondary.
That's why
highway.
you see that orphan piece of property in between the street and the actual equestrian trail.
Well, I think we're gonna go ahead and we'll draft up a letter. It'll have a couple of conditions that were for the project, but with a couple of conditions on it.
It doesn't sound like anything that you're opposed to, any of those suggestions you make in our letter.
And obviously, we've got more work to do with the traffic study. We'd like to see that, so I'm sure we'll see you guys back again as time goes on. But in general, we need to work through. So we'll do a draft letter. Jackie, correspondence secretary.
Probably not for a couple of weeks.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously, the planning department's not looking for a letter from us for you guys to submit to keep going forward. This was just more or less a test the waters and see what we think. So a couple of weeks would be fine, and then we'll bounce between ourselves and get it hammered out. And I'd say probably by not the first, but the second meeting, we can approve it in October.
Right. You guys have to get, I'll write it within 2 weeks. That's all I can commit to. You guys need to read it.
Then give us another 2 weeks to get it
Okay.
finalized. So 30 days.
Who's our point of contact with the church? I mean, who should we be asking?
At this point, it'd be me.
Okay.
Right.
So if we have
Do you have a
questions,
card?
we'll ask you. And
Please, or is your name, are you one of the names on here?
No.
Okay, that's a problem.
I'm a neighbor of Tom, so he's my old
We'll reach out to you. Thank you very much.
Your father,
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We're going to try and get through everything.